Welcome back. I had another video planned to talk to you guys about. I was going to talk about the Lauren Southern debacle and give you guys some thoughts on that. However, something else came up. A death happened, and this inspired me to talk about some other things. But before we get to that, I want to talk about why I do this channel. I started this channel when my wife was pregnant, and the idea of this channel was to it's a self-improvement channel to share advice that I've learned with young men, things that will help you out in a practical way. And the other thing was having a wife that's pregnant. This before I became, well, I was already a father when she was pregnant, but now the kid is out of her body. But I kind of want to leave something behind for my kid. And when I do these videos, in a way, I kind of imagine I'm talking to my kid and leaving him knowledge behind. It's kind of like if you've ever seen the movie Superman. In the movie, the young Superman, he builds the Fortress of Solitude, and then he has these crystals. And his father, who's dead, played by Marlon Brando, he has the knowledge embedded in these crystals of his history, who he is as a person, knowing where he came from, and also all the various wisdom and knowledge accumulated throughout the universe that their society knew. So to me, this is almost like leaving those crystals, like what Marlon Brando did in the movie Superman, for my son. Maybe my son can look back on these someday and maybe learn a thing or two from old dad. So one of the things too, since this is going to be a video actually about parenting, and I'm not claiming to be an expert parent. I'm a new parent and I'm still figuring things out. And am I a good parent? People say, "Oh, you're such a good parent," when they see me or see things I'm doing. And I say, "Well, check back in with me and my kid in about 30 years and we'll see if my parenting philosophies have paid off. We'll see how they panned out." But one of the things, if you want to learn to be good at something, sometimes taking a look at a really bad example, someone doing things that's doing everything wrong, that's the best way to learn, because you say to yourself, "Oh my God, I don't want to be like that." Sometimes too, like I'll be feeling lazy, I don't feel like going to the gym, and then I'll see a fat person and I'll be like, "Oh, I got to get to the gym." So seeing the opposite kind of inspires you, and it can be a learning moment. But my wife was on social media, and one of her, not really a friend, more of an acquaintance, posted something about her nephew that he just died. Now, it should be pointed out, because this is all relevant. This is a Hollywood person, this acquaintance of my wife, and I feel that's very relevant, and you'll see why here in a minute. But what happened is, apparently the kid got addicted to drugs and had a drug overdose, ended up in a coma, and about 2 weeks later ended up dying. And they used a lot of the usual buzzwords in the post, these things that you hear over and over again anytime someone does something bad or wrong, or there's some kind of tragedy that happens out of human behavior. Buzzwords like mental health, depression, these kinds of things. Basically trying to not have any blame, any fault, off of just basic human behavior. And they posted an Instagram of this kid that died of a drug overdose, and I wanted to check it out. And I wasn't going to show it to you guys because I was going to protect their privacy, but upon researching this a little bit more, it seems that this guy is this young 18-year-old kid is somewhat of a public figure, and other people are talking about it. So I guess it doesn't matter if I just share it with you. But before we go to their Instagram, let me ask you, because this is what I was curious about, was, do you think there was any signs, any warning signs that this kid was heading down the wrong path, that maybe he wasn't doing everything quite right in life? What do you think? Do you think that you're gonna see anything, any warning signs of a bad future to come? Well, let's check it out. So here's the Instagram. I'd never heard of this person. I actually checked their Instagram yesterday. They had like 62,000 followers, and then since the death, in one day, it jumped up by 30,000 followers. That's interesting, but what do we have here? What's the first thing we see? The name Hella Sketchers and Hella Sketchy, I guess, as you can see there, which is interesting because it's almost like you're proclaiming something negative right away. It's a very negative thing to say. Like my nickname is the Face Man, or Face. That's something really positive. This is almost using your words to proclaim something negative about yourself. But we see here less than 100,000 followers, but has that verified blue check mark. Someone that most people probably wouldn't have heard of. But this is someone from a Hollywood family. Apparently the father's a filmmaker. But let's see, what kind of person is this? Is there any warning signs that this kid didn't have everything going on upstairs all right? So here we have first photo. We see a kid, bright pink hair, looking a bit flamboyant. So I'll let you guys. Here we have a bunch of pictures with a shirtless black guy. We have, interesting enough, the hair on this kid is wild, but kids, they do some wild stuff, and it is just hair. You can grow it out, you can dye it back, you can cut it off. It's not that big of a deal, but what's more interesting is the tattoo on the face. There's a facial tattoo, really marking yourself. If you're getting a facial tattoo, or your kid is getting a facial tattoo, that is a warning sign. It's kind of interesting, too, if you check the locations of some of these photos, like this one, Bel Air. Some of these other ones here, here's a good shot of the facial tattoo. I don't even know what that is. Tattoos all over the hands, all these visible tattoos that can't be covered up. That is a drastic decision, and it's a sign of someone that doesn't have it all figured out in life. But as I was saying about some of the locations of these, they're from places like Bel Air, Beverly Hills. This is a kid that probably grew up in having a life of luxury to some extent. This is a kid that got a lot of what he wanted. Here he is with a photo of a black guy, hanging out with a black guy that has tattoos all over his face, weird piercings. Another thing is, too, you got to be careful of the company that you keep. Both you individually, that's a reflection of who you are, and definitely for your kids, you got to watch who they're hanging out with. There was once a famous criminologist that said when all men are first exposed to crime, they're abhorred by it, they're disgusted by it. But the longer a guy hangs out with criminals, eventually he starts thinking that, well, it's not so bad what these guys do. And if this guy hangs out with criminals even longer, you know what happens? He becomes a criminal himself. So that just shows you like how who your friends are, you're going to end up doing what they are. If you're hanging out with champion athletes, you're probably going to be a champion yourself. If you're hanging out with rich guys, you're going to make some money somehow. Let's go back to this. So, what do you guys think? Do you think there was any warning signs of this kid? I found some other articles that were kind of interesting. Here's one from people.com where his dad is talking, his dad who's a filmmaker, and here's a quote: "The opioid epidemic does not discriminate. The conversation regarding drugs, depression, mental illness, social media needs to be happening more openly without judgment and stigma." Well, you know what? That's actually a lie. That's a falsehood. Guess what? If you don't want to die of a drug overdose, don't do drugs. What are the odds that I'm going to die of a drug overdose or get addicted to drugs if I never use drugs? And when I was growing up, there was a common message that you can die if you do drugs. We'd all heard it. It was something they taught in schools when I was a kid, and I would have never considered doing drugs because if the drugs didn't kill me, my parents probably would have killed me. So I'm thinking, how do these people not get these messages? And I don't really feel that bad when people die of a drug overdose because I feel like these are messages that we've all heard. And you know what? These people, they want to live a consequence-free life. Why should this kid get to live this luxurious life, getting high all the time? Well, guys like me, we live more lives of just restraint. But should they be able to not have consequences? Just like I don't have the consequences from drugs because I'm not using drugs. But should he be able to have the same consequence-free life, but still gain to indulge and get the pleasures and the benefits of these drugs, like getting high all the time? Well, you know what? There's consequences in this life, and this is something that a lot of people don't teach. And since my child's been born recently, I've been studying religion, and one of the keys of Christianity is, and this is something that is lost on a lot of people, especially now. Think about this. It's all about not judging people. They're trying to teach all this stuff, not religion, but society's trying to teach that. They're trying to teach, well, we can just, if you get some kind of disease from your lifestyle, well, we'll just get science to work on it, and we'll get you drugs where you don't feel the negative side effects of whatever disease you caught or can cure it. So they're going to science as their god. They're like, we're trying to find a way to outsmart nature, outsmart God. And people, they're always just trying to put this idea out in society. Just be nice, don't be judgmental, man. But ultimately, that's not going to help you. And if you look deeper, and you don't have to look very deep for this teaching into religion, is one of the core tenets of Christianity is it doesn't matter how nice you are. That ain't going to save you. Now, of course, loving your neighbor, you're going to be nice to your neighbors. But if they're into something bad, you're probably going to want to warn them. That would be loving them. And a lot of parents these days, they don't give their kids the tough love. I'm not saying that this guy's parents aren't nice. I'm sure this is a family of nice people. But being nice isn't going to save your kid, and it's not going to save your soul. And it's funny, I was talking to my dad, and he was talking about the neighbors across the street. They're such nice people, but their kids have gotten in some trouble with, they've been involved with drugs, they've been in jail. And my dad was saying, how do such nice people have kids getting in this kind of trouble? And they said one day before the elections, they put a sign in their yard for a Democratic politician, a Democrat. And then my dad said, oh, it all makes sense now. Their values are a little bit screwed up, even if they're nice people. And this is not an advocacy for Republicans, because I'm not a Republican myself, but the people that vote for Republicans, their values are a little bit more with it and a little bit more practical. It's kind of like I've been trashing Ben Shapiro a lot on this channel, because Ben Shapiro's an evil guy, but I understand the people that like Ben Shapiro, those are good people. Ultimately, they're good people wanting to do the right thing, and they have values, and they're trying to live good lifestyles. So, and if you're a Democrat, the values that teaches, trying to teach a consequence-free lifestyle, always make someone else pay for your behavior, whether it's taxpayers or whether it's people, let's get people to like pay for drugs after I catch some kind of disease that could have been preventable. And ultimately, I think the bottom line is you got to have God in your life. Like, one of the reasons I started becoming this religious guy, which most of my life I didn't really care about this stuff one way or another, but ultimately I'm trying to do what's best, not only for me, but for my kid now that I'm a parent. But even before I became really religious, just getting older, at some point I realized that, hey, if I live a life where I'm not sinning, I'm probably not going to have too many complications in my life. So I started, without even being a Christian, I started trying to live a very pure life. This happened maybe 3, 4, 5 years ago, when I came to this conclusion just through aging, that a lot of our problems are easily preventable if we just live like a Christian and we try not sin. So ultimately, it's fine. You see these people, and I think these are good teaching moments when you see someone that's screwed up. And I know sometimes I see some of these young androgynous kids on YouTube talking about being an atheist, and I think, like, man, if I was a young guy and I saw one of these people that's supposed to be my peers talking about being an atheist, some androgynous weird guy, I'd be like, man, I gotta run the other way. I gotta become either a Christian or I gotta become a Muslim. I gotta do whatever the opposite of this is. That's how I gotta go. So I think whenever we see these bad examples, it's one of the most inspiring things. And of course, I'm not doing this because I want to rag on these people or have anything against them. Like I said, I'm sure they're nice people, but their values are a little bit off. And in their posts on social media, the family, they were talking about God and about, thankfully he didn't die right away. Like, they had some time to pray, and that's all good stuff. But you also have to kind of like think, am I truly following God, or am I creating my own version of God, where God is this all-loving, non-judgmental guy? because if you really go into religion, and you don't have to go very deep. It's funny, I used to really like Joel Osteen until I started following it. That's this kind of thing where they never talk about sin, and if you really want to help people, like I'd listen to Joel Osteen, but he doesn't really talk about sin. And then when I started reading about sin, I'm like, man, this is really important stuff. No wonder Christians are into this, because this would really help me if I knew why I shouldn't be sinning, because it's to my benefit. And I was thinking, if Joel Osteen really wants to help people, he would be out there warning people a little bit more about some of these lifestyles. So hopefully talking about this not only entertained you, but hopefully you learned something along the way that you can take in your life. Be a happy person, and always remember your behavior, the people you hang out with, and you can study this stuff deeper. This is just a little food for thought, but you can check out our other videos. We got a lot of good stuff for you that should also entertain you and also help you.